We're back here on NBA Today with breaking news out of Milwaukee. Shams, a new head coach has been named. What more can you tell us?
Malika, sources tell me and Ramona Shelburne that the Milwaukee Bucks are finalizing a deal to make Taylor Jenkins the franchise's new head coach. The sides have met multiple times. Last week, Bucks brass, their ownership group, met with Taylor Jenkins in Memphis, and then again this week in Milwaukee. This was an aggressive pursuit and recruitment of Taylor Jenkins to secure his commitment here weeks before the NBA draft combine. Taylor Jenkins is seen as the top commodity in the NBA coaching market. You think about his player development, the culture setting, the competitiveness that he drove in Memphis, the all-time winningest coach there in Grizzlies franchise history. He made 3 playoff berths across 6 years. And with or without Giannis Antetokounmpo on this roster, whatever style you want to play, Taylor Jenkins is seen as that type of coach. Whether you're trying to compete now, whether you're trying to build for the future, he's shown that he can really contend and play and drive competitiveness in any type of area of franchises in.
Yeah, and he has familiarity with the organization. He was there back when I was there in 2018-19 as an assistant coach. But you mentioned the Giannis of all of this, the elephant in the room, Shams. Was Giannis involved in any way in this coaching search, the way that stars often are when a franchise is looking for their next coach?
Look, I'm not aware of any involvement from Giannis in this search process. This was something that the Bucks genuinely led, feeling like Taylor Jenkins was their guy. This was the best coach under any circumstance. He has shown that throughout his coaching career. We know the Bucks have hard decisions to make across this offseason with their veteran players, and that starts with a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo. They had conversations at the deadline about him, and my understanding is that there's been zero communication between these two sides since the deadline as far as Giannis and the organization's top brass. But this day and moving forward is really a dawn of a new era in Milwaukee as far as culture in bringing in Taylor Jenkins.
Yeah, I guess the question is just how much of a new era, because as you're saying, no communication between Giannis and the top brass since the end of the season. That's certainly something to note. Shams, thank you very much for that insight. Ramona, you were involved in this reporting process as well. How should Bucks fans be thinking about this hire?
I think they should feel great about it. They just got one of the top coaches on the market right now, and they got him before anyone else can even get involved. And I think with Taylor, he was a great head coach in Memphis. They obviously kind of muddled things there in terms of all the assistant coaches they hired and the different directions they took, and then eventually they fired him sort of unceremoniously. Towards the end of last season, they didn't get to close it out, and he's been waiting for an opportunity. He could be choosy, and so he chose this opportunity, and I think this is a homecoming. He obviously has some experience with the Bucks. They know what they're getting. He's going to figure out what he's getting when they make a decision about what to do with Giannis Antetokounmpo, but they know this man, and they know what type of coach he is, and so I think that's why the Bucks fans should feel good about this, because he's a known commodity in Milwaukee.
Absolutely.
I think it's a smart hire because it kind of hedges your bet a little bit. It kind of, well, you have a coach that's been in the playoffs before, has taken a Memphis team to a second round. So if you want to, if Giannis is staying, then you're trying to retool around him to have a playoff team. If you're trying to tear it down a little bit and it's post Giannis, this is a team that Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, those are all 3 young players when Taylor was in Memphis. So if based on what direction you're going, I think he fits both models there.
Yeah, he's able to be with a team that has a lot of experience and is trying to make a playoff push again, or a team that maybe is in a little bit of a more of a rebuilding direction. Taylor Jenkins, certainly congratulations to him, but he's going to be able to be a coach that can do both. All right, new hire in Milwaukee, but I want to revisit one of our top stories coming into the day, which was both SGA and J-Dub suffering injuries last night. Shea, he was able to complete the game. He had a little hand injury, but J-Dub, he exited the game in the third quarter with a left hamstring injury. You're going to see it right here. And he just checks out of the game pretty quickly after this. Our Tim McMahon was in Oklahoma City last night, and Tim joins us now. So what do we know, Tim, about the health of Oklahoma City's 2 stars here?
Howdy, Malika. Let's start with the news that's a bummer, but far from the worst-case scenario. That is, Jalen Williams has sustained a grade 1 left hamstring strain. The team just announced that he will be reevaluated weekly. That means he's likely done for at least this series. Let's be real. The Thunder are hoping this series is over in the next week. They are 39-10 without him in the lineup this season. Unfortunately, he missed most of the season due to injuries. This is not the hamstring that he had the trouble with during the regular season that he strained and then aggravated. This is the other hamstring. But again, it's a grade 1, will be evaluated weekly. And with Shea, He got a little bit of treatment on the bench there early in the game after that fall where he bent his fingers back, got those fingers stretched out. Then he came back and scored all 37 of his points.
Right.
Was handling it with his left, was finishing with his left. Shay's okay.
Oh, for inquiring minds, May 2nd, for that weekly basis that J-Dub is going to be reevaluated on, May 2nd is when the second round could start. So just a date to keep an eye on here. All right, as I've been mentioning all show, one side, one story of this game, Tim, it was certainly the injuries. But the other story of this game, it was the officiating. Devin Booker, he went off in a way that I hadn't really heard on the officials. He called out referees by name. Now, it's not the first time that players have suggested, right, that Oklahoma City maybe gets the benefit of a good whistle. But can we expect any of this to carry over into Game 3?
Listen, it's always a story when Oklahoma City's involved, and especially when Oklahoma City's on the winning side, which is quite frequently. Now, Devin Booker complained about officiating in general, but he was particularly perturbed about a technical foul that he received that, honestly, even people on the Thunder side said that was a little bit perplexing. I don't know why there was a technical foul called on that. He blew up. He has the right to be angry as long as and express himself as long as he's willing to pay the fine. Former Suns general manager James Jones now is the punisher for the league office,
Right.
so he'll be the one assessing the fine, ironically. And then, you also had Dylan Brooks going off about Shea. He said he was a little frail, flailing, flopping, all those kind of things. The kind of complaints you hear about Shea often. I don't think Shea's 9 free throws is what decided this game.
Yeah.
Probably more the fact it's 56-11 in points off turnovers during the series is why
Right.
OKC has the lead. But I will say Dylan Brooks is great at getting under the skin of his opponents, of agitating, and Shea is great at getting to the line and drawing fouls. Shea has been successful getting to the line this series. Dylan Brooks is going to have a hard time getting under Shea's skin. By the way, they're buddies. They play on Team Canada together.
Right.
And Shea's pretty unflappable. Honestly, he seemed pretty amused by Dylan's comments.
Hey, you know what? I think you got to laugh at some point, right? Because SGA is hearing this type of feedback all the time. Tim McMahon, we appreciate the insight. Our top story, Victor Wembanyama. He suffered a concussion during the second quarter of Tuesday's Game 2 loss to the Blazers. This is the play right here. He was placed in concussion protocol. He did not return to this game. Now, remember, the NBA has a minimum 48-hour period before the players can return to full activity. And Game 3, that is tomorrow in Portland. But we did get some positive news that Wemby is actually traveling with the team. So our senior insider, Shams Charania, he reported that earlier today. Shams, I know we got a lot of injuries to get to today, but I'm hoping we can start with some good signs here for Victor. What do we know?
Malika, this is very positive development for the Spurs and for Victor Wembanyama. Not only is he traveling with the team for Games 3 and Games 4 in Portland this weekend, but today he was present at practice and he was seen rebounding, shooting some light, doing some light activity, shooting some short-range shots. And I'm told late Wednesday, Victor Wembanyama also participated in cardio workouts because his symptoms did not worsen. And throughout all of this, he has to clear multiple neurological exams per day, which he has up to this point. But whether he's able to clear protocol in time for Friday's Game 3, that's obviously up in the air, very much in jeopardy overall, just from a timing perspective. But the Spurs are expecting to have a better understanding here tonight. And remember, Malika, in all this, the team doctor as well as a league third-party concussion protocol director are all involved in terms of whether he will be cleared and when that point will come.
Yeah, and very important because concussions, as we know, they can be very, very serious. But the fact, Shams, that he did get on the plane, that maybe tells me that there is some optimism that either for Game 3 or for Game 4, they're hoping he's going to be able to go. Thank you for that insight. I mentioned we got a lot of injuries to get to, so please do not go too far. As we welcome you inside our Los Angeles studios, I'm with a couple of seniors today. That is a senior writer in Ramona Shelburne, a senior front office insider in Bobby Marks. Ramona, you were actually there.
Yeah.
You were in the arena when Victor went down. It was really scary to watch on television.
Yeah.
How did it reverberate around the team?
You know, I think when we're in the arena, I don't think a lot of the fans realized how serious it was because the way he fell, he kind of put his hands down and then his head onto his hands, and then he popped back up. I mean, there was the one step where he stumbled a little bit, but then he ran off the court into the locker room, and you just saw this guy. Everybody knew he was hurt, but I don't think you saw the extent of the injury unless you were watching on television and saw that he actually lost consciousness for a little bit there. And I think the team might have realized as they were standing there, but then he popped back up, and that signaled to everyone, this is a man who wants to play, wants to get right back out there on the court.
I think the one, I wrote it down here, what Sham said, symptoms did not worsen. And I think when we look at it, it's almost like an hour by hour leading up to this game. Having a son who had a concussion in an athletic activity, you're kind of based on the hour.
Yeah.
As far as what's going to happen, is he okay? And then you basically deal with it leading up until the night of the game. Fortunately for them, they played on. They had 72 hours before this game to start. If the game was tonight, he's not playing.
Yeah.
Right. But I do think that is encouraging. But as I said, we're kind of on the hour as far as how he gets better with this.
Just the way that the schedule works out.
Yeah.
You got one time that you get 3 days between games, and it just so happened for the San Antonio Spurs, it's between games 2 and games 3. So game 3 is on Friday, and then game 4, we have that as part of our Sunday afternoon doubleheader. First, it's the Cavaliers and Raptors, and then it's the Spurs and the Blazers. We're going to await the word on Victor's status for that one. Also, we have the Nuggets and the Timberwolves Saturday primetime. That's at 8:30 p.m. on ABC and the ESPN app. Let's get to some action on the court last night that we saw. The Suns, they hung around. Well, at least for the first half, right, against the defending champions. 3 minutes into the first quarter is where we begin. Watch SGA closely. Has the ball up top, passes it to Lou Dort. You know he can knock that down.
Moonball.
The story of this game was the injuries. Here's SGA on the importance of J-Dub.
We have guys coming in and out the lineup all year.
Not that great. Okay, the Thunder, though, they have a slightly better record in games without J-Dub this season. OKC went 18-1, right, in its first 19 games of the year while he recovered from that wrist surgery. But in the 30 games he missed later with the hamstring, OKC went 21-9. Still, though, I think that's a little bit deceiving. They need J-Dub in the lineup. Shams, as promised, we got a lot of injuries to go through today. So what do we know at this point about Jalen's status?
Like I'm told, J-Dub is undergoing an MRI today on that left hamstring. There's obvious concern when it comes to the hamstring, and this is the opposite hamstring that J-Dub injured multiple times during the season, missed significant periods of time over the course of the year. And so we know the Thunder's history is always being cautious, especially with a soft tissue injury like this one. My understanding is the Thunder will know more later today and then tomorrow as far as his status is concerned.
And you can see he immediately checks himself out of that game. Shams, thank you. We'll certainly check in with you tomorrow when we know more. Bobby, though, if J-Dub is to miss time, I think it's easy to say they're taking care of business against the Suns. When do you think that this team is really going to feel it?
Well, no disrespect to the Lakers or the Rockets, who would be their opponents in round 2, but I think it would be a Western Conference Finals, just based on whether it be Denver, Minnesota, Portland, or even San Antonio, of course, here. I think when you look at the body of work this year, they're 15-0 when Jalen doesn't start and you replace him with Case and Wallace in that starting lineup. So there is such a long body of work there as far as plug and play. But I do think, I mean, the playoffs are showing us is a bout of attrition as far as getting through day to day here. But I do think conference finals is where I would be concerned if he's not back in a lineup.
Well, they wouldn't have won the championship without him last year.
Right, that game 5.
That game 5. And I don't know if they can win it again without him this year. But let's just see how he comes through this injury.
Yeah, absolutely. And it did look, I'm hoping that this is minor, maybe something that's more like grade 1. Again, they have to finish out this series against the Suns, but they are taking care of business, at least so far. So injuries, that's part 1, right, of the story of this game. I think part 2 is that the Suns, they were not happy with the officiating last night. Devin Booker, he took particular offense to this play right here, right? He was called for a tech after he was trying to save the ball out of bounds, but there's definitely a little bit of confusion on who exactly the technical was meant for. But let's just let Booker explain this in his own words.
In my 11 years, I haven't called a ref out by name, but James was terrible tonight, through and through. It's bad for the sport, bad for the integrity of the sport. You know, people are going to start viewing this as a WWE, you know, if they're not held responsible. I haven't won a championship in this league, but I have been in it for 11 years now. So to get to this point, to be treated like that, for me to even be saying something out loud, it's bad.
Yeah, Devin Booker, he isn't usually one who is saying things about the referees.
Right.
Before we weigh in on this, though, the Suns governor, Matt Ishbia, he did say this. He had Devin Booker's back. He said, quote, "I am 100% behind Devin Booker. If the referees are going to demand respect from the players should demand respect from the referees. And when a referee is missing calls and clearly disrespecting the players, almost mocking them, he said, they must be held accountable." Nobody who loves this game enjoyed watching that last night. So, Mr. Marks, you did your homework. You went to the tape.
I did.
You watched back every single foul from
this
last
morning.
night's.
I did.
Okay, so
why
what
not?
did you
We
learn?
have to.
Yeah.
What did you learn?
Listen, if a player is going to call out the NBA and their officials and basically say WWE, we've got to go to the tape. Well, two things are going to happen here. Likely things. Devin Booker's going to get fined.
Yes.
And the T should be rescinded, I think, for that.
I agree.
I agree on that. 25 fouls for Phoenix, 21 fouls for Oklahoma City. Not big of a differential. If there is a player that has gripe, it's probably Colin Gillespie, who was whistled for 4 fouls, and I think 2 of them were questionable here. But Oklahoma City is a difficult team to play against, besides being extremely talented. I think the word probably is annoying, right? As far as how they draw contact. Listen, if Ramona, put your arm out. I'm gonna put my arm out, and that's going to be a foul because they know how to bait you into calls there. And a lot of it's not just Oklahoma City. We're going to watch Jalen Brunson do it tonight, probably in New York here, but they know how to draw fouls, and they're the best at it.
And you saw those 2 plays, like they were kind of back to back, where Devin Booker goes up, Alex Caruso leans in, okay? And you see Alex Caruso leaning in, but look at where his hands are. They're down. And I think that's a really big difference between the next play where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has the ball and his hands are up. Now, Chet's not even looking at the basket there. That's one of the calls you're talking about with Colin Gillespie. But there's a play that goes right back where SGA goes up against, and his hand is out. And so when your hand is up and you know how to draw that contact and you know how to exaggerate that contact, you're oftentimes going to get that call. But Alex Caruso's hands were down. So I don't think that should have been a foul on Booker, and I don't think it should have been a technical. But I see how the foul was called on the other side.
Right, and the frustration is mounting for the Phoenix Suns, who were able to stay in it, especially in the first half. They were taking care of the ball. They were limiting those fouls. And so once it started to catch up with them a little bit here, we saw that just unravel. And I think that's, Bobby, where you get the frustration.
Well, and the funny thing is, when you watch the game again, Phoenix was probably at a B level. They played pretty well up to a point, but they come, as I said, they come at you in such different ways. And, you know, a 10-point lead gets to 20 all of a sudden, and a lot of it is attributed to some of these fouls that were called.
All right, so we have the Suns who are down in that 0-2 hole, and we take a look at the entire bracket here against the Oklahoma City Thunder. In the rest of the West, right, the Lakers, maybe surprisingly, because, again, injuries, that war of attrition, as you're talking about, Bobby, are up 2-0 on the Rockets. And then you see the Nuggets and the Timberwolves all tied up at 1-1. Interestingly, though, Aaron Gordon, he was downgraded to questionable as he's dealing with injury now. And then 1-1 for the Trailblazers and Spurs as that series shifts back to Portland now. So injuries has been the name of the game here, Ramona. I do want to check in on the Los Angeles Lakers, 2 of the biggest stars we haven't seen yet in the playoffs. Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic, what do we know?
Well, both of them are on the court, right? But one of them is actually doing a little more, and that's Austin Reeves. And so I think there's a sense, you know, we just passed that 3-week mark from when he first got injured. We're coming up on the 4-week mark, and the initial time frame was 4 to 6 weeks, and I think there is a chance. He's still got a lot of hurdles to clear. There's still benchmarks he's got to prove that he's healthy for. There's a chance that he could come back either later in the series or the next time. He's closer, from what I understand, than Luka Doncic is.
Okay, so Austin Reeves a little bit closer here. Hey, we got a lot to get to in this show, though. Still to come on NBA Today. Why don't we check in on those Detroit Pistons? Cade, Detroit bounced back in a big way last night. What fueled Detroit's turnaround, and can they carry that momentum into Orlando? Plus, as the series shifts to
drafts that we've ever seen.
Bobby, what would you say? It's been a couple of years since we had a draft class that was quite as deep as the one that's going to be walking across the stage.
This is deep.
Yeah, it really is. And earlier this morning, AJ DeBonsa held a press conference, and he made it official.
Let me just say this before the news is already out there. Today, I'm officially declaring for the 2026 NBA draft. How does it feel now that I'm declared? I mean, it feels good. I mean, now the work starts again, all over again. I mean, I have a lot of NBA players tell me that it kind of restarts when you get there. So I'm just looking forward to that next step and being a rookie and learning from all the vets. And, you know, hopefully go win amounts of awards, numerous awards, win some championships. And then the next speech, the next big speech I should have is a Hall of Fame speech, so we should be good.
You know what? I love the the confidence, right? So AJ, he makes it official. He's entering the draft where the top 10 overall prospects are all freshmen. This is according to our Jeremy Wu. And Devonsa, the top-rated prospect, he finished the season with the third most points by a freshman in Division I history, just 9 fewer than Kevin Durant with Texas. That was back in 2006, 2007. So how about a little top of the top? I know we all watched him early in the tournament throughout the college season, but why not? A little number 5, UC Riverside. This is at BYU. Cougs in transition. Devonsa gives it up, gets it back, throws it down.
Woo!
It's the athleticism that scouts are really
Nice that he gave the ball up in the first place, too.
Yeah. All right, number 4, BYU at Baylor. This is the second half.
Drives on. Oh! Air AJ takes off.
Air AJ, the one-hander, and the little stare down afterwards.
I don't see many big guys that's got a first up like that either.
Right. Number 3, this is playing Pacific now. AJ takes the dribbler's cookies, and then he throws down the windmill.
Maybe he'll
Windmill?
What do you think? Dunk contest?
Maybe.
I mean, he said the next big speech was the Hall of Fame, but, a couple of all-star press conferences along the way, potentially. At number 2, BYU versus Texas. This is the NCAA tournament. He was great in this game. Drives, a little pizzazz. Two-handed reverse slam.
9-5.
Yeah.
9-5.
All right. And this one, BYU in Provo.
Right, in rhythm. No good.
One-handed?
What was that? AJ Devonsa coming out of the rafters. Yikes!
One-handed?
Yeah, this man lived on the
Goodness.
top
Oh,
10
and the stare down. I'm
all
into that.
season long. Hey, our college basketball and our NBA draft analyst, King McClure, he's joining us now alongside our Bobby Mark. So, King, I want to start with you here because obviously AJ is capable of making the plays that just jump off the screen like we just saw, but it goes beyond the highlights, right? What do you think is most exciting about his potential in the NBA?
You're absolutely correct, because when you look at those plays, it amazes you. But it's the versatility at his size. To me, that's what makes him so unique. We got to remember, he is 6'9", but the things that he can do a plethora of things on the floor, and that's what pops out. So let's watch the film, and let me show you a few examples, all right? So when he scores in space, Kevin Young did a really good job of putting him in space. Look at this. But the thing I want you to pay attention to is the efficiency with the dribbles. He's taking his time. He uses his jab to be able to create the separation, and that's Dalen Swain that's guarding him. That's a first-round draft pick, people, not just anybody. The second one is his passing, all right? He doesn't get enough credit for this. Houston blitzes the ball screen. They put 2 on the ball, but look at his eyes. He's reading the backside tag, so when Milos Uzan steps over, he's able to deliver that pass on time, on target, for a wide-open 3 that's high level. And right here, defensively, I wouldn't say he's a great defender yet, but he's a good defender. One-on-one matched up against another top 10 pick, Kingston Clemens, can create a high-level contest and be able to get that block and get off to running. I mean, when you look at what he can do, when you talk about defensively, when you talk about his playmaking, right? I'm big on guys who can impact the game outside of just scoring, and we know that he did that. He did it with the best. He led the league, led the whole NCAA in points per game, but his impact when it comes to facilitation, with 11 games with 7 assists, at least, or 5 assists, but then also on the defensive side with his athleticism and his ability to be able to stay in front, I think that's what makes me so impressed.
Yeah, there's really a lethal combination there. And Bobby, you've actually been in these draft rooms. When you're evaluating someone like Devonsa, what stands out to you?
Well, what things he's getting better at. I went over to Loyola Marymount on Monday night to see him work out. He's in the gym there. He's been here since mid-March here, and there's 3 things that stood out for me. He's gotten bigger. He's added at least 5 pounds in good weight. He's up to about 210, 215 here. The other 2 things is that his little bit of his deficiencies, his ability to shoot the ball from deep, something that he was working on, shot 8 for 10 from long, from the top of the key, and his handle.
Yeah.
That's the 2 things that he is prioritizing in his workouts here. He went through about an hour. He's going doubles every day here, but man, I think he might even bigger than 6'9".
Wow.
I think he might be. It's going to be interesting, his measurements when we see him in Chicago, as far as what he comes in and as far as wingspan and height here. But he looked certainly impressive in his initial workout on Monday night.
And bigger than 6'9". I mean, that certainly is impressive as well. But I guess the question is he a sure thing to go number 1? That is what scouts are asking. That is what teams are asking. And King, I understand you have your own draft board. Do you think that AJ is the clear-cut best player in this draft?
Yes, I do. And when I talked about all the things I mentioned earlier and how he can impact the game and more than just scoring, I think that's what makes him so unique. I mean, when you look at the first round, he is the most unique player that would be drafted. And at his size, if he's bigger than 6'9", oh my goodness, watch out, NBA.
Right.
Completely watch out, because that makes it to a different degree. But yes, I do think he's the clear-cut number one.
Well, and when you look at it, he's looking to become the first player to lead the nation in scoring and then go number one in the NBA draft since Glenn Robinson. But this is your top five, and you have Caleb Wilson going number two here out of UNC.
I love Caleb Wilson. I talked earlier about how can you impact the game outside of scoring? And I think Caleb Wilson has something that we typically do not see, and that's a motor. I mean, he almost averaged a double-double all season. And when you look at what he can do defensively, his switch ability can really guard 1 through 5. And at 6'10", his vertical explosion, that jumps out to me. I saw at times his ability to be able to stay in front of guards 94 feet. How many guys at 6'10" can truly do that? His impact is so much greater than his scoring. And I think from day one, when you talk about a guy who can contribute to a team defensively, he's going to be one of the best players on that team. And I don't think he scratched the surface of what he really can be on the offensive side.
Well, particularly because he's dealing with injuries. But you see the video that was coming out of UNC, right? His left hand right here. Yeah, this is it. It looks like it is healed just fine. Putting on a little show there. Duncan all over the UNC baseball team. King, thank you so much for the time. We look forward to chatting a lot more as we lead up to the draft here. But back in the NBA, Detroit beat the Magic big in this one. The final score is 98-83, and now the series is all tied up at 1 game apiece. So Detroit officially, they snapped the longest home losing streak in NBA postseason history. Phew. It was at 11 games. Now, the last time the Pistons, they won a playoff game at home, it was May 26, 2008. And fun fact, the eventual champion of the Boston Celtics, our friend Kendrick Perkins, he fouled out of that game against Detroit.
You just had to do that to him, huh?
And game 2 is underway. This is one of the underrated rivalries in the NBA. Murray, the Heat. DiVincenzo for 3. Cash! And attack. You don't have to have a 3. That's a long 2. No good. DiVincenzo has it. Up to Randall. 5 seconds. DiVincenzo! A shocker here in Denver. This series is tied.
Go out for Jokic, Jamal, all the bad defenders, the whole team. They're all bad defenders. Yeah, they're all bad defenders.
Okay, I'm not going to use the same name calling that Jaden McDaniels did, but I'm just going to say the numbers show he may have a point, because the Wolves are shooting at least 35% against each of Denver's starting 5 as the primary defenders this series. Now, the Nuggets, they had this to say when they were asked about McDaniels' thoughts on their defense.
Thoughts on Jaden McDaniels' comments about your team's defense?
I can't wait for his podcast.
They've just been saying a lot all season, all series, so let them talk. Let them get everything they want off their chest. We're cool with it.
I think narrative's really interesting, too. You hear so many things, and we've gotten really lazy in society. What's our defensive rating in this series through 2 games?
Really 109, right?
109.
Really good.
How is that?
That's fair. 6 best in the playoffs.
6 best in the playoffs? Oh. Okay. Next.
He said, next. All right, Anthony Slater has been covering this series for us. Slater, Jaden McDaniels, he's actually not usually a big talker, which is why I found this so interesting. He's usually pretty soft-spoken. He really, though, stirred something up in the Nuggets, but judging by their reactions here. So I'm curious if the players, are they still talking about this going into Game 3?
Well, we are, and I think they're a little annoyed by it, right?
Okay.
You know, Tim Hardaway did his shoot-around availability about, 10 feet to my right a couple hours ago. He got peppered with 2 more questions about it, and he was like, hey, it was 2 days ago. It was 2 days ago. But, look, it's the topic of the series, and it is a topic that should annoy them. It's an opponent saying how bad they are defensively, individually going down the roster, essentially. So Jaden McDaniels also talked at Wolves shoot-around today, and I asked him about that podcast comment. Here he is.
Adam said he was waiting for your podcast.
Who?
Their coach.
He said what?
He would like to hear your podcast.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about. Podcast? Nah, that's not me.
Yeah, so I mean, this becoming the topic of the series, one of the points the Nuggets have made is they don't need any extra fuel. This is game 3 of the first round of a huge playoff series, but you've got to imagine, they're going to come out tonight, particularly on the defensive end, with a little bit more of a charge to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Since us still talking about is annoying them, I will leave that there. Before you continue to become the next member of the Blue Man Group with the lighting that's changing over there, let's get to a couple of injuries, because we know, Slater, that Anthony Edwards, who was already listed as questionable again with that right knee issue. But now we see Aaron Gordon has been added to the injury report as well. Who's in, who's out, what's going on there?
Yeah, we'll start with Edwards. I mean, I don't want to say it's a fake questionable, but it's what they continue to do. He's questionable for game 1, questionable for game 2, and he played a team-high 40 minutes. So expectation remains he's going to keep playing. We just got to see how the knee responds. He's grabbed at it a few times. On the Gordon front, it's trending in a bad direction, right? It was probable as of this morning, and it has gone to questionable. That trend line, I think, would make him more of an actual true questionable, and we got to watch his status, coming into tonight's game.
All right, that's something certainly that we will be keeping an eye on. Slater, go enjoy the rave, I guess, that's happening behind you. We appreciate the time. All right, well, usually when we do our NBA Today Big 3, it's the plays of the night before. But today we have a special anniversary edition, because on this date, April 23rd, there are some pretty impressive highlights we need to get to. First up, Paul Pierce. This is Game 3, Ramona, 2010. First round against the Miami Heat. The truth, he went to work. He scored 32 points. He nailed his 4th career game-winning buzzer beater on the road. And our guy Kendrick Perkins, 12 points, or actually 12 rebounds, 2 blocks in this game.
I know, you said 12 points. I didn't quite believe you.
Yeah, I know. He said that his stats are like 8 and 7 every game. So next up, Steph Curry. This is Game 3, 2015. This is the baby-faced assassin. You can't get the first to go. You can't give that man 2 attempts. You can't give him the second one. He ties the game. He sends it to overtime. And then Golden State went on to win in overtime. And Curry, he hit 40 in this
is
one.
like their coming out party, right?
Exactly. And then a dynasty was born. And, of course, we couldn't forget about Dame time, right? Game 5, 2019, first round versus the Thunder. He became the only player in NBA history with a game-winning buzzer beater and 50 in the same game.
And after that game, that Thunder team changed awfully.
Yeah, the Thunder changed a lot, and the internet did too, because that meme was bored. And speaking of Damian Lillard, the Blazers posted this on Wednesday. It's the all-star guard getting some shots up, and they captioned it with the little eyes emoji, and that sent the internet into a frenzy. But just for the record, the Blazers, they said they don't expect to get Dame back this season. But of course, there's still a lot of excitement because the team is hosting their first playoff game since 2021. So absolutely, there should be a lot of excitement here. And Ramona, right now on ESPN.com, you have a story out, and it details another side of what's going on with the team. Because on the one hand, they're having this run in the playoffs, or there's a series that's all tied up against San Antonio. But on the other hand, there's a lot of cost-cutting efforts that have caught a lot of folks' attentions. What's important to know?
Well, I think the team has started off the year, right, with their head coach getting arrested after the first game. Tiago Splitter steps in the morning after. This is a guy who was coaching in Paris the year before. It's not his staff. He doesn't really know the players, takes over the team on an interim basis. From what I understand, they did give him a raise at some point and did discuss a longer-term deal with him, but the numbers that they offered him were so far below a standard head coaching salary in the NBA, they sort of tabled discussions. And because of that, the new owner has had conversations with other coaches around the league, college, assistant coaches, and it's sort of been loud around the league the last few weeks.
Yeah.
To the point where it's a bit uncomfortable. Everybody kind of knows they're talking to coaches who could theoretically replace Tiago Splitter, who's just led the team back to the playoffs for the last 5 years. And when I was in San Antonio the other day, I asked him, how are you dealing with these rumors and stories, a lot of which has been reported in the local press there in Portland as well. And Tiago said, I'm just trying to be a professional and focus on what I can focus on.
And absolutely, I think he is doing that to the best of his ability. But a lot of this, Bobby, is there's a new owner in town and some changes are being made. And you've seen this happen when a new owner comes in. What's that like for a team?
I've had it 4 times, 4 different times. And I think the biggest thing is when an owner buys a team, the commissioner just doesn't give you like a manual and say, this is how you're supposed to run it. I think everybody is different here. And I think he's learning on the fly. Unfortunately, he's gotten a lot of bad press over some of these cost-cutting measures. I think when he opened up his press conference a few weeks ago, probably the thing he should have said was that Tiago Splitter is our coach, and we'll reevaluate this at the end of the season here, and instead of kind of leaving this in limbo. I will say this: he comes from an NHL background, certainly owning the Carolina Hurricanes. We had Lou Lamoriello in New Jersey who came from an NHL background. Right. There is different philosophies as far as whether it be roster building, whether it be building out your front office here. And I do think this is still a learning curve for him. But I will say this, Thiago Splitter has done a terrific job. He should be their coach moving forward. But the spotlight should be on a team that's 1-1 in Portland for the first time in, I don't know, 4 or 5 years and trying to take a commanding lead there.
Instead, we have stories in the Oregonian, which has done a great job covering this. Of, there's not going to be T-shirts on the chairs there. That's normally everybody gets away free T-shirts.
But there are treasure chests maybe that are around Portland. However,
I mean, I heard they weren't doing as much comp tickets. Okay, these are the people who work for the team who usually get tickets. They're not getting them. There's the late checkout story that's been going around.
Right.
The two-way players didn't travel. I heard they weren't having advanced scouts
which is pretty
scout the Timberwolves and the Nuggets. That was also in the Oregonian. There's just a lot of these stories that are distracting from the first playoff.
I will say this. We work in a world of salary cap, and you can only pay a certain player. But the one benefit when you have an owner who has, certainly if they have deep pockets, is the resources that they can provide to the team, whether it be staffing, whether it be advanced scouts, whether it be everything else, whether it be how you treat your players. How you treat your players is the most important thing, because that's going to be when you recruit that player or draft prospects that come in through your building.
And I do want to be sensitive to what you just said, that instead of talking about what the Trailblazers
Scoot Henderson at 31.
And Scoot Henderson, we are sitting up here and talking about this drama that's swirling around the team. And so I do think, our commitment to Blazers fans is that tomorrow, as this game gets underway, certainly that is where we are going to be placing the microscope. But coming up